This new kid Josh recently moved into our school district. He was pretty cool, and we seemed to have similar interests and hobbies. Josh asked me one day after school if I wanted to sleep over his house. We were more acquaintances at this point, but he was someone that I could see becoming a good friend of mine, so I accepted. That Friday night, I went to his house. His mom and dad were really awesome. They ordered us pizzas. Josh and I played video games and watched movies all night until we fell asleep. We fell asleep in his living room with sleeping bags. Around 2 a.m, I woke up to go use the bathroom. I was walking to it when I noticed something very strange in their backyard. I was looking out their back window when I noticed there was a bonfire and about 20 people stood around it. Even from inside, I could hear some sort of chanting. The longer I studied the group around the fire, the more concerned I was. Everyone standing around the fire had on a dark cloak with their hood up. Every one of them were tossing something into the fire and then letting out some kind of animalistic chant. I began to have a nervous chill. That's when I noticed that 2 people did not have their hoods up. It was Josh's parents. They seemed to be the ones leading whatever it is this group was doing. But what disturbed me the most was both of Josh's parents' eyes were rolled in the back of their heads. All I could see were white orbs. I did not know if I should be terrified or not. Maybe this was something they did often, but it was 3 a.m, and what they were doing did not seem normal at all. It seemed like a type of ritual or something. I suddenly did not need to go to the bathroom anymore. I went back into the living room and got into my sleeping bag. That's when I noticed that Josh was not in his sleeping bag. Was he out there with his parents, chanting and throwing things into the fire? Honestly, I just shut my brain off and forced myself to go to sleep. The next morning, when I woke up, there was no sign of a fire or dozens of people in the backyard. We were all sitting down for breakfast, and I had to bring up what I saw last night. I asked Josh's parents if they had some kind of party or get-together last night, but Josh's parents only looked at me with slight amusement. I told them how I saw a bunch of people late at night in the backyard, but Josh's parents and Josh both said that I was probably dreaming because they were all sound asleep last night. I was so confused and baffled, but I know what I saw was not a dream. I did not imagine this. A month later, Josh and his family moved away to another school district. I never heard from him again, and quite frankly, that's how I wanted to stay. I always loved sleeping over my buddy Chris's house. He had the fun home, every game system, a home theater in the basement, and any and every movie you could watch. Anytime he asked me to sleep over, I said yes, but not anymore. And here is why. I was sleeping over his house on a Saturday night. We were having our typical fun, playing Call of Duty all night and eating junk food. We fell asleep in his bedroom in separate sleeping bags, but around 2 a.m, I woke up to a noise. It was pitch black in his room, so I could not see too well. The noise that woke me up seemed to be coming from my buddy's bedroom door. It was opening. I remained in my sleeping bag, now watching as someone walked into the room. I wasn't too worried at this point. It was probably his parents just checking on us or something. The door opened all the way. The person who opened it walked gently into the room. I could barely hear their footsteps. They made their way over to Chris's desk, pulled the chair out, and sat down. This whole time I was pretending to be asleep. As my eyes started to adjust to the darkness, that's when I noticed that it was Chris's mom sitting in the chair. This was very odd, because she was not doing anything other than just sitting in her son's desk chair at 2 in the morning. But as I stared longer at his mom sitting in the chair, I noticed something very unsettling. She had a wide grin on her face, like super wide, as if she was a carnival clown or something. But she just sat there with that demented smile and sat silently. I did not dare move or make a noise. My heart was pounding so hard, I was shocked she could not hear it beating in my chest. I could not tell you how long this lasted, but I want to say about 30 minutes passed when she finally got out of the chair. She went back to the door, tilted her head, and slowly shut the door, all while still smiling that disturbing grin. I did not wake Chris up. I decided to just lay in my sleeping bag and try to process what just happened. I was completely unnerved and have never experienced his mom do something like this before. The next morning, I did not say anything at all to Chris about his mom. When we went downstairs for breakfast, she was in the kitchen, making us both pancakes and waffles. She acted completely normal, as if she never snuck into Chris's room last night, and sat in silence with a demented grin on her face. From that moment on, whenever Chris asked me to sleep over, I had to politely decline and insist that we have the sleepover at my house instead. I slept over my good friend Billy's house one Friday night. Billy lived with his mom and his grandmom, who was in a wheelchair. You might be wondering why I'm pointing out the wheelchair, but you will see why. Billy and I fell asleep in his living room around midnight. We had played video games and ate pizza all night until we fell asleep. At 1 in the morning, I was woken up to a shuffling sound. It was pitch black in his living room, so I could not see what was making the noise, but I definitely heard it. It sounded like an animal, almost like a dog walking around, but Billy did not have any pets. I sat up in my sleeping bag, my eyes slowly adjusting to the dark living room. I looked around, and that's when I saw it, or rather, saw her. On all fours, like a dog, was Billy's grandmom. She was sniffing around the carpet and moving very fast. I could not believe what I was seeing. Billy's grandma had been wheelchair bound for the past 7 years. She is not able to walk, yet here she was, crawling on all fours at 1 p.m. with great speed. To put it frankly, this frightened the hell out of me. I tried to lay back down in my sleeping bag without making any noise, but my zipper jingled. Billy's grandmother crawled quickly over to me. I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. I could feel his grandmother right in front of me. I heard her sniff hard, like I was food or something. I did my absolute best not to open my eyes and look at her. After a few tense moments, I heard her crawl away and out of the room. I lay there in complete shock and utter disbelief. Then, I eventually fell back asleep. The next morning, I told Billy about his grandmom. He just laughed at me and said that I must have had a crazy dream. I almost wanted to believe him, but I know that I was not dreaming. I saw what I saw. My mom came to pick me up at his house, but I forgot my cell phone on his kitchen table. I ran back inside to get it. Billy's grandmom was at the table, and as I grabbed my phone, his grandmother put her hand on mine and said very quietly that she knew that I was awake last night. I looked at her in horror, but she just smiled at me. I walked slowly out of the kitchen and sprinted to my mom's car. I never slept over Billy's house, ever again.